So Blagojevich, I forgot it, Blagojevich, whatever it was. So they got him on phone conversation, saying to somebody, this one's too good to give away. Meaning he's going to take money for it, which he did, and that's why he ended up in jail with a couple other Illinois governors. They almost had a minion. But so this one's too good to give away, Michael. We're professional. That's you're gonna be hearing a lot of that from me. So, yes. In any event, everybody's doing good work. Everybody's doing good work. Ohr Somayach is built on the approach here has always been that we get to Gemara as fast as possible, because Gemara, even those who can't, and I know that you were amazed that Andrew is able to read so fluently already after 3 months of being in Ohr Somayach, which is pretty impressive. Andrew, take a vow. Everybody, gets a gets a. So the Ohr Somayach approach is based on a statement in the Gemara itself, which says, "Hama'or shebo yachziron lamutav." The light of Torah will bring a person back. See, we don't even understand why. You're learning subjects that when you guys get married, you're not gonna be saying Harayat lila into. You're gonna just say you're gonna do the right thing. You're gonna say Harayat mekudeshesli and just behave yourself under the chuppah. You're not gonna pull any shtick like in the Gemara. So why are we learning about all these things that we learn about? Some of it is completely theoretical, but in one way or another, it affects the neshama. That's the way it works. Why does it do it? I don't even know myself. It's only because you're absorbing Hashem into the system. So that's what Ohr Somayach has always been built on. And we've seen the results over the years. The results, you don't see it by me because I still haven't made it out of the Mechina program, and I've been here about almost 40 years. So it doesn't always work. But sometimes, it has results, and that's what the yeshiva is built on. And by the way, those who are watching, Ohr Somayach is doing a campaign, fundraising campaign. We want to raise $3 million. I think it's $3 million, and then there's the money for the yeshiva too. So if they have ambassadors or whatever it's called, a page. So just give me your money. That was professional, wasn't it? How's that? That's pretty professional. That's what I call the professional approach. In any event, we are on Yosef. Now, I want to go back for 1 second. Where Yosef reveals himself to his brothers. Then we're going to go past that. But there's one point that I forgot to mention, that in page, where is it? Page 240. 252, yeah. So Yosef says to the brothers again. I'm going back to this because this is the pasuk that there's a lot of medrash on, a lot of commentaries talk about. And pasuk Gimel, right in the middle of the page, Vayomer Yosef alecha v'ani Yosef od avichai. It's pasuk Gimel, right in the middle of the page. Vayomer Yosef ani Yosef od avichai ha'od avichai. V'lo yachlu echav la'anoso sokin. Follow me, but his brothers couldn't respond. So when you put yourself in the place of the brothers. The best example I could give, if you ever seen a movie, one of these thrillers where everything is confusing, and the bad guy's going to turn into a good guy, the good guy's a bad guy. You're not sure what's going on. Then in the very last scene, everything gets clear. I was like, you mean, oh. And sometimes you see these movies, you ever see a guy in the parking lot, two guys in the parking lot after the movie, one guy's, he's got his foot up on the car, and the other guy's looking at it, explaining, oh, you mean he was a bad guy all along? I thought he was, that was me. And I could never follow. I had one friend who knew from the beginning of the movie, he's going to get killed, she's a spy, right, he's a good guy, even though he looks evil. And then I'm always like, well, what just happened? Then sometimes you see these movies, and all of a sudden the last scene, it's like the last page, Snape was really good all along, then you find out, and you're confused till boom, all of a sudden it clarifies for you. Now imagine the brothers. This guy knows about them, he's sending them back and forth, there's the goblet, everything is confusing. You don't understand why is it happening, and all of a sudden Yosef says 2 words, Ani Yosef. And boom, everything's clear. Ani Yosef, Oh yeah. With 2 words. Ani Yosef. Right? And all of a sudden everything's clear. All of a sudden everything with 2 words. In life, sometimes we see things like that and we don't understand, why is this happening? Why did that happen? Why is he smarter than me? Why did he make the money? Why didn't I get that job? Why? Why? And then ultimately in the future, Hashem's going to say 2 words, Ani Hashem. There's going to be a revelation. Then everything gets clear. Everything gets clear. So the famous story, I've heard about the Rambam, something it was the Ramban, whichever one it was, there was a young man who was on his deathbed. And the Ramban said to him, look, we both know that soon you're going to be in the world of truth. I'm writing you 3 questions. And somehow the Ramban Kabbalistically said, I want you to come back to me in a dream. I have these 3 questions, and I want you to answer question number 1, some halachic question, which everybody will work out, question number 2. And question number 3 was, why does Hashem run the world the way he does? So the guy says, okay, they make it, and then a short while later he passes away. And then he comes back to the Ramban in a dream, and he says, as far as question number 1, the answer is this. Question number 2, the answer is this. And question number 3, I'll tell you why Hashem runs the world. I was going to ask, but as I got closer to God's throne, the truth and clarity, everything became so clear I didn't have any questions anymore. So we all live with questions. We all have questions. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a moment of clarity. And that moment of clarity is where there's going to be, a person is going to be facing absolute clarity and absolute truth. And that's why the Gemara says that in the future, God's going to bring out actually the Haftorah we read on Shabbos HaGodol, the Shabbos before Pesach. It's Shabbos HaGodol because there's a lot of stress in the house because it's a Shabbos before Pesach. That's a joke. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. You've been there? Shabbos before Pesach? Yeah. Shabbos before Pesach. Don't walk around with the crackers, the chametz, and it's a lot of fun when you have little kids in the house, by the way. After you've been cleaning, and then one of your kids comes in with a bag of Osem soup nuts and scatters in the house. But I figured out a way around it, by the way. I worked my way around it because when I I would check for the chametz. So then I would tell my kids, after I did the bedikas chametz, I would tell the kids, okay, anybody who finds a piece of chametz in the house the size of an osem soup nut gets half a shekel, or gets a shekel, I think. I forgot what I gave them. And they would scatter. They'd come back to me, Daddy, is this chametz? Microscopic particles. Scientific instruments couldn't pick them up, except for my one son, who somehow always came back with 2 pieces, which mysteriously looked like 2 halves of 1 piece. He's in prison now. And he came back with these, so that would cost me a shekel. It was worth it. So the Haftorah says that in the future, Hashem's going to bring out the sun. The tzaddikim are going to be cured by the sun, and the rishayim, the wicked people, are going to be burnt by the sun. This is based on the pasuk. Shemesh tzedakah umarpeh. I'm going to bring out the sun. The sun's going to be a healing sun. And the Gemara says the tzaddikim are gonna be healed, and the rishayim are going to be burnt. So the question becomes, how could it be that if one sun, if we're all out on the beach on a blazing hot day, either we all get sunburned or none of us get sunburned. And the fact they have suntan lotion doesn't help, and it doesn't help. It doesn't make you gooey, and the sand sticks to you. So how could one sun burn some and heal others? Good question, right? What's the answer?
Spiritual flame.
Spiritual flame, but that doesn't answer spiritual flame, so it burns spiritually. You want to avoid getting burned under any flame. A spiritual flame is worse than a physical flame. The flame of Gehenna, the lowest level of Gehenna, the fire of Gehenna, is said to be 60 times the hottest fire in the physical world, which is hot. So you want to avoid that at all costs. To avoid that run-down feeling, look both ways before crossing the street. So, you want to avoid Gehenna at all costs. How could one sun heal? So the Stipler says the sun means the light of truth. The light of truth will shine in the future. And it's ironic because think of anybody in your mind. Don't say it, but think of a tzaddik. Think of any tzaddik that you could think of. Not me, of course, but any tzaddik you could think of. And Why is that funny? Now, why is that funny? Any tzaddik you could think of. And what do you think are his thoughts in the course of the day? A guy, somebody who you see is really serious about his Yiddishkeit. What are his thoughts during the day? I can tell you what his thoughts are. His thoughts are, boy, I should have, maybe davened with a little better kavana. And, last week I spoke some Lashon Hara, and I could have maybe learned another 10 minutes. And he's always walking around thinking about how he's coming up short. And think of Rishayim, some Rasha who held the door open for some woman once, open a door. He says, wow, does anybody see what a tzaddik I am? People, the irony is that the greater people think they're coming up short. And the people who are really coming up short think that they're wonderful. And then one day the light of truth is going to shine. And the people who think they're coming up short, the disciples says they're going to see you were good. You were really good all along. You were very good. And the wicked people are now going to be exposed in the light of truth. And that's going to be embarrassing. That's going to be the shame, that what you call the spiritual fire is the fire of shame that a person feels when he's held up. You were a faker, you didn't help anybody, you were in it for yourself, you were a politician, and you only cared about yourself, and so on and so forth. That's the light of truth. So one day there's going to be this exposure to this light of truth. Superficially or immaturely, we sometimes think, in the day of reckoning, God's going to say this, and I'll say that. He'll ask me, why were you late for davening? And I'll say this or that, and we'll work it out. Me and Hashem were like this. And what we don't understand is that a person's going to be hit with a blast of MS. Just a blast of absolute truth. And in front of absolute truth, we have to hope that we can with it. So we are the good people. We're the people who are thinking that we're coming up short. There are people out there who think they're wonderful, and then they're going to be very embarrassed. That's what it says. Okay, now Yosef wants that his father should know that he's alive. Now watch this. He says to his brothers like this. Take a look at 254 towards the bottom. So Yosef says, I want you to take these wagons up. First Paro says it to Yosef. If you take a look at Pasuk Yud Zayin, it's about 11 lines from the bottom. On page 254. Ve'yomer Paro Yosef. Paro says to Yosef after finding out that his brothers are there, Emor al achicha v'zosasu, tanu es birchem, load up your donkeys, u'luchu bo arza Canaan. Go to the land of Canaan, u'kchu es avichem v'es batechem u'vorilai. Bring your father and your homes, come to me. Ve'etna lachem es tu v'eretz Mitzrayim. I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, v'achlu es chel v'eretz, you consume the fat of the land. And the commentaries say that Paro, there was a prediction here. This goes back to your question from yesterday. Here was subconscious. This was subconscious. What did Paro say? I'll give him the good of the land. What did the Jewish people do when they left Egypt after 210 years? They emptied the place out. They took the good of the land. So Paro didn't even realize what he was saying, but as he's saying, I'll give him the good of the land, that means they're going to clean this place out. The Jewish people are going to leave and they're going to take the good of the land, which they do. They empty out Mitzrayim. So Yosef then does something strange. He gives each one gifts. On the bottom of the page, skip down to the bottom. L'kulam nasan le'ish chalifos smalos. To each one of his brothers he gave garments. In those days, garments were a big deal. Nowadays, you go and you buy a new suit every other day. There, in those days, it was a big deal. Yosef gives them garments. U'lebinyamin nasan shlosh me'os kesef v'chamesh chalifos smalos. To Binyamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 garments. Now, why is he giving them garments to begin with, by the way? Why, do you remember what happened in the previous Parsha? Remember, they rent their garments. When Yosef planted the goblet, they rented it. When they figured out that we're in trouble now, they rent their garments like a person in mourning. So remember we learned in the Gemara, the halacha, that if you causative damage, what we call a grama, he didn't damage them, they damaged themselves, but he caused it. What's the halacha if causative damage, gentlemen?
You're not allowed to wear it. You're not allowed to wear that clothing.
You can wear whatever you want to wear. Why can't you wear torn garments if you want? I see people. What's the halacha by causative damage as opposed to direct damage? We learned this in the Gemara. By direct damage, you have to pay for what you damage. If you go in and you rip somebody's garments, you have to pay for it. What if you cause damage by somebody else? What's the classic example of causative damage? I take a ladder, you have a chicken coop, and I put a ladder up against your chicken coop. and there's a bobcat right there, and the bobcat climbs up the ladder and eats the chickens. Did I damage your chickens? Is it causative damage? What's the halacha by causative damage?
You gotta give them the same value, or
You don't have to, but you're exempt in ordinary court. Beis Din cannot make you pay for causative damage. It's indirect, what we call indirect damage. But you are liable to fulfill your heavenly obligation. Yosef sees himself as causative damage over here. Why did the brothers rend their garments? Because he framed them. He created a situation where they'll rend their garments. So therefore Yosef feels I have to pay them back their garments. So he gives the brothers each a garment. He gives Binyamin 5. Anything about that strike you as strange?
Did Benjamin rip his own?
Benjamin didn't rip it all.
So then it's even weirder that.
Oh man, no, baby, Binyamin did. Binyamin did. He was with the brothers.
Rabbi, in the Gemara it says if a thief and the thief is caught, you have to pay times 5. Is that
No. Something else should bother you based on this story over here. You don't need any Gemara now. Something about this should bother you. Nothing bothers you?
yeah, why is he getting 5?
What?
Why are the other ones?
What do you say, Moshe?
The whole thing started with jealousy.
Yes, excellent. How did they end up in this situation? Because Yaakov gave Yosef a garment. They didn't give anybody else. Hey, you haven't learned anything? You haven't learned anything in all this time. You haven't learned anything. So you're giving your brother Binyamin 5. You give them 1 and you give him 5. What's going on? It doesn't make the whole reason you're in this situation. This all started that way. Not only that, the Gemara says a man should never favor one son over the others, because as a result of Yaakov giving a certain amount of material to Yosef, they ended up in Mitzrayim. You never favor one child over the others. It's not always easy. So here he gives them each 5. He gives them each 1 garment, and Binyamin he gives 5. So the commentaries say there are 2 approaches here. Approach number 1 is he gave them 1 garment, and his 5 were all worth the same thing as the 1 that he gave them. He gave him 5 cheaper garments. Why did he give him 5 garments? This alludes to something in the future, that Binyamin is going to have a descendant who's going to leave the king with 5 garments, which is who? Mordechai. Mordechai leaves the king. Mordechai Yotzel B'Vush Malchus Ches Chur Ragam, and the Megillah says 5 different things that Mordechai was wearing. So this alludes to the idea that eventually, it's a good news. It's a good news that there's going to be 5, he's going to have a descendant that's going to leave the king with 5 garments. Number 1. Number 2, this is the ultimate test. Yosef has heard from the brothers. Yosef's heard from the brothers that the brothers regret what they've done and they wish Yosef they had never sold him, and so on and so forth. What's the test going to be? Can I give garments to Binyamin and see that they're not jealous now? Can I give him more? This is the ultimate test. That's what he gives the brothers. Look what he sends his father. Nachshon, you're sitting in the exercise seat again. I think we need the door open. Ula Aviv, thanks, Nach. Ula Aviv Sholach Kazos. He sent his father the following. Asora chamorim nosi mituv Mitzrayim. Stay with this, gentlemen. This is fascinating. He sends him 10 donkeys carrying the best from the best of Egypt. Ve'eser asonos nosos bar v'lechem b'mozon lovi v'derech. And he sends him 10 donkeyettes that are carrying bread and food for his father for the trip down. So that's what he sends him. Now take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, Mituv Mitzrayim. It's the right column of Rashi, page 256, top line. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Mituv Mitzrayim. What is the best? He sent him from the best of Egypt. If I said to you, I'm going to send you from the best of Israel, I send you something from the best of Israel, food from the best of Israel, what would you guess? Falafel, bisli, whatever Israel, Israel's finest, with some tchina on it, Israel's like wafers. Israel makes 100 different wafers, all of them the same. So he's sending him from the best of Egypt. What's the best of Egypt? Matzinu b'Gemara, says Rashi. The Gemara says, Sheshalach lo yayin yoshad. He sent him aged wine. Shedas zekenim nochayimenu. Old people take comfort with aged wine, with good wine. I don't know if you guys are wine drinkers or not. To me, I don't know if I've had good wine once or twice. I've had wine like 300 shekel bottle. Wasn't mine. Somebody poured me some. It's a little smoother than what I usually spend for Shabbos wine, which is about 19 shekels for the bottle, because it all tastes the same to me. Just knock it down as fast as possible for the effect. But I'm not a wine drinker. I don't like that taste. But if I have to, for the mitzvah, what I wouldn't do for Torah. So I knock down one cup. Then, the best one is on Kiddush on Shabbos day, because then it's an empty stomach. So then I knock down one while everybody's washing. I knock down a second one. Oh, then the chon tastes good. Yeah, trust me, boys. Stay with me, boys. I'll take you to the promised land. So then the third one I don't want to talk about. But the Gemara says that old people, they like aged wine. We talk about aged wine. The wine is older. What Yosef's obviously none of this is simple. This is well thought out. Why is he sending him? What does that mean? Why do old people like aged wine? It's not like it's like your grandpa, sit down with this is good tea, and it gives a krechts. Why do they like aged wine? Why do old people like aged wine?
I have no idea.
What do you think? Anybody got an idea? Why would old people like aged wine?
It reminds them that they're old.
Yeah, most old people don't want to be reminded they're old, especially women.
I guess because it tastes better.
I know women who never get past the age of about 37. So why would they want to be? What does it mean? It reminds them they're old. What do you say?
Maybe nostalgia.
Nostalgia? Everybody has some wine and they're like, I remember the days back. Oh yeah, give me another shot. Yeah. I don't know. Wow. Yeah. No. So I'll tell you what it is. You see, almost nothing in the natural world, especially food, there's no food that gets better with age. Maybe dry salami. If you hang salami, that's good. But I don't think they had that in those days. But other than that, if you leave food, I think cheese, right? Cheese gets better if you age it.
Beef jerky, no?
That's like salami, that sort of thing. But if you leave something, it goes bad. It goes off. And even wine, if you don't age it properly, could also go off, turns into vinegar. In the world at large, is there more respect for young people or old people? In the world at large?
Yeah.
Young people or old people? I got news for you. Old people, especially presidents, lose a certain amount of respect, especially when they can't remember which shoe to put on which foot. There's no respect for. They lose respect. Old people are like you're over the hill. You're young, you're a go-getter, you're making money, you're grinding it out. And you get a little older, people are just kind of tolerating you till you die so you can leave them the pile. And the Gemara says, old Talmidei Chachamim, Torah scholars, the older they get, the better they get. You've been using your mind your whole life, learning Gemara in a professional institution, and you've been using your mind, you're exercising your brain. The sharper as they get older. Their physical capabilities diminish, but their mind gets stronger. People who are without Torah, what happens when they get older? The Gemara says, Amaratzim, ignorams, the people who never learn Torah. When they get older, they become, the Gemara says, they become more foolish. You ever hear guys talking, about, a guy tells you a story, an older guy tells a story, they'll often drag it out because they finally got your ear. Let me tell you that time, I was with my friend Max, and I says to Max, I says, Max, remember, he'll just go on and on. And generally, people only hang around hoping for a gift. That's the only reason you're willing to listen. You go to an older Torah, to Talmidei Chachamim, people consult with them for life decisions. Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the Gedolim of Yisrael, Reb Moshe Feinstein, the older they got, the better they got. Yosef is sending a message to Yaakov Avinu. When he sends the wine, he says, listen, what's Yaakov's concern here? Yosef's going to tell him I'm alive. I'm the king of Egypt. What is Yaakov going to hear when he says he's the king? It's like sending a message to his father, listen, I'm the president of my fraternity in university after 22 years. What do you think your father's going to think? Father's a frum guy. He hasn't seen his son in 22 years, and I'm the head of my fraternity at university. What's the father going to think? Goodness gracious, where has this kid been? And what's he done, or what hasn't he done? Yosef's sending a message, Dad, you got nothing to worry about. I've maintained my loyalty. What's the sign? Because I see you, the older you've gotten, I have respect for you. You're old wine, you're vintage wine. And that's why old people like it, because wine reminds them of themselves. That's what Andrea started saying. The wine reminds them that as I've aged, I've gotten old, I've gotten better, not worse. Whereas the world at large sees it the other way. And therefore, Yosef, that's why they like old wine. Because old wine is an idea, it shows you that although the natural pattern is that things digress, a Torah scholar has gotten better. So Yosef shows him that, number one, Number two, what's he really saying? He's saying, I still see you as the leader. The tradition, you're the father, I'm the son, and I see you as the vintage wine, not just 'cause I'm a ruler. That's superficial. That doesn't mean anything. More than that. More than that. Why does wine go off? What causes wine to go off?
Bad?
Yeah, what makes it go bad? Oxygen. Exactly correct. In other words, they seal the barrels, and the barrels have to be airtight. If any air gets in, the wine starts going bad. What's Yosef telling Yaakov? He's saying, here's aged wine. You're worried about me in Egypt because I'm obviously in an environment which is poisonous. We got toxic, right? It's a negative environment. I'm telling you that I've remained airtight, sealed. I've kept it all out of me. I've got the same Torah values that I've always had. And he's sending him the message with the wine. The message with the wine is that I've, not only that, there's, I tell you, incredible Gemara. The Gemara says, you remember Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave? So he had a son. The Gemara about Mitzvah says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had a son, Eliezer. And Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. At one point, he saw Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Shimon. He was also, he had been in the cave 12 years. Then eventually, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would pass away. And Eliezer, his son, was one of the leading scholars at the time. And he once saw a policeman. And the policeman was looking to catch thieves. So Rabbi Eliezer said to him, I'll give you a hint, I'll give you a clue how you catch thieves. You go into the local restaurant or eatery, and you see people who look tired. So if he's a Torah scholar, he's tired because he got up early to study. If he's this sort of person, he's probably working late. If he got no other reason, you see a guy tired and he's dozing at 10 in the morning in a Starbucks, that means he's been up late breaking into houses. Arrest him. So they sent a message to him, well, listen, since you're so good at this, we're going to make you a policeman. So they made him a policeman. And as a policeman, there were Jewish people who were being arrested also. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, Rabbi Yoshua, the son of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva had a code name, by the way. Do you know what Kireach means in Hebrew? Kireach means bald. And Rabbi Akiva was called the bald one. There was a code name for Rabbi Akiva because he was a fugitive from the Romans. So he had a son, Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, Rabbi Yoshua, the son of the bald one. And I don't like the way you're looking at me. But and I don't have any sons named Yoshua. But, and we'll talk after class. But, so Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha sent a message to Rabbi Eliezer because he was arresting Jews. In those days, when you arrested them, it wasn't like you go on parole. If you're arrested, sometimes they're executed. So he sent him a message, and the message was, you are chometz ben yayin. You are vinegar, the son of wine. In which he was telling him, your father was Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was wine, and your wine that's gone off, because I disagree with your policy. You don't go and have Jews arrested. And he called him chometz ben yayin. That was the message. You are vinegar, the son of wine, meaning your wine that's gone bad. So there's a whole discussion in the Gemara, and he proves that he isn't bad. The Gemara proves he isn't bad. The point is, Yosef is sending Yaakov Avinu the wine. He's showing him, I'm not vinegar, I'm wine also. That Yaakov Avinu should be confident that Yosef has managed to rise above the various temptations of Egypt. That's the idea of sending him the wine. Now, he also sends him 10 donkeys and 10 donkeyettes. And is that really something that, in the grand scheme of things, do we need to know what the gender of the animals is? Why would we need to know that? Is that for reproduction? Okay, we know biology. Why is he sending him biology lessons here? Why is Yosef sending him that? And now that the Torah takes pains to tell us that, why is the Torah telling you it's like an insignificant detail? Do I really care whether it was male or female donkeys carrying the wine, carrying the load? Why is he telling him that? So, what's that?
There's something significant about it.
Yes, there is.
I just don't remember what it was specifically.
Right, there's definitely something significant. Okay, what is the significant? What is it? There's definitely something significant. The significance is, do you remember when Yaakov sent gifts to Esav? When he sent the bribes to Esav, he sent 5 groups of animals. And the Torah takes pains to tell us how many males and how many females there were. For the sake of what's Yosef sending Yaakov here? Saying, not only I haven't veered off of basic Torah, I haven't even abandoned whatever the traditions I have from you. There's a tradition. When you send the gifts on males and females, I'm sending males and females. I'm showing you, even on this detail, I'm not veering off. Customs are very important in Judaism. If you're Ashkenazi, you keep Ashkenazi customs. If you're Sephardi, you should keep Ashkenazi customs too. Didn't expect that, did you? Did you? If you're Ashkenazi, you keep Ashkenazi. You're Sephardi, you keep Sephardi customs. Now you can't even flip back and forth. Then you flip back and forth, whatever your custom is. Sometimes people don't know what their custom is. They came from a background, parents weren't religious. So we find out where you're from. So if you're from Poland or Russia or whatever it is, so you keep Ashkenazi. If you're from Uzbekistan or from Gruzinia or anything, so you keep their minhagim. But you keep the customs are very important in Judaism. There are different types of customs. For example, how many hours do you wait between meat and milk? So it depends. It depends. What? It depends how hungry you are. No, it depends. Yeah, it's like this mother says. This kid says, "Mommy, can I have a chocolate bar?" She says, "No, you're fleischig." She says, "You want to see how fast I can become milchiks?" And we don't mean that. It depends on, like a yeki. How many the yekis are the Germans? 3. Germans wait 3 hours. There's a church. They wait 3 hours. Ashkenazis wait 6 hours. Even among Ashkenazis, some Ashkenazis wait 6 hours. Some wait 5 in a minute. Into the 6 hours. Some wait 5:31. Depends what your custom is. It depends what your family custom is. What's that? Dutch. The Dutch is our, if I'm not mistaken, I think it goes both ways. I think they wait an hour both directions from milk to meat. I'm not positive. I think so, but they wait an hour. Some wait 3 hours. They wait 6 hours. Okay, these are binding customs. A woman who gets married, she takes on her husband's customs. She takes on her husband's customs. If the only one that she can maintain, she's allowed to maintain the hours. She does not have to. She doesn't want to. I have a daughter-in-law who actually kept 3. She was raised with 3, and then married my son, who's Ashkenazi, who married. Well, she's Ashkenazi too, but she's German. Her father is from German descent, and then they keep saying. She immediately took on 6 hours. She immediately took on 6 hours because she felt that you can't have 2 customs in the house. And my son didn't have the option of taking on 3, because if he would have, then I would have done it a long time ago. But he didn't have that option, so she took on the 6. So, but they have a right to maintain that custom. So customs are very important. By the way, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein has a very interesting shayla. Now there are certain Hasidic groups where the women shave their head completely.
Yes.
You know that? Okay, so there are certain Hasidic groups where the women shave their heads for certain halachic concerns having to do with immersion, whatever it is. There was a woman who came, and by the way, when you're raised that way, certainly a girl raised in that tradition, that's something that you look forward to when you get married, because that's what you do when you get married, just like you look forward to cooking, and you look forward to keeping your family traditions. So there was a woman who actually got married. She was from one Hasidic group where they had that custom, and when she got married, her husband was from a different group, and he wasn't interested in keeping that custom. And they asked her, Moshe Feinstein, what do you do over here? Because she has a very strong minhag. So what do you do? Does she get? Because she wants to do it. Again, I don't say whether you should want to or not. She wanted to do that because that was a family cause. You have to understand where people are coming from. This is our minhag. This is our minhag. We want to keep our minhag. So Moshe Feinstein said, obviously, in spite of having a family minhag, your relationship with your husband is actually binding, and it's a mitzvah. It's an obligation. A woman has an obligation. If a husband does not want his wife to shave her head, can't imagine why. But if a husband doesn't want his wife to shave her head, so she has to do what the husband wants. That's her mitzvah. That's already a mitzvah. There's a famous story with the Ger Rebbe. I think the Imre Emes was one of the Ger Rebbes. So he walked into shul and he saw one of the Hasidim look downcast. So he said to him, "What's wrong?" So he said, "I forgot my gartel." The gartel is the black belt that the Hasidim wear, for martial arts. It's different. They're all black belts. So he's wearing. He said. So he saw one of the Hasidim was missing didn't have his gartel. He said, "I don't have my gartel." So the Imre Emes said, "Okay, well here, take mine." And he immediately started taking off his gartel. So the Chassid said, "But Rebbe," he said, "Rebbe, what are you going to do?" He said, "It's not a problem. you'll fulfill the minhag of wearing a gartel, and I'll fulfill a Torah command of doing chesed. I love that story. I love that story because you have to keep it in proper perspective. You have a minhag. Okay, it's a beautiful minhag. But a doraisa, a mitzvah of chesed, every time you give somebody a ride in your car, you're fulfilling a mitzvah doraisa. Let's keep it in proper perspective here. It happens also, for example, Friday night, there's a custom of singing Shalom Aleichem, right? You sing Shalom Aleichem and then Eishes Chayil, and whatever the customs are. So the Chafetz Chaim had a guest at his house once, and he immediately came in and he started making Kiddush. And his family said, well, what about Shalom Aleichem? So Chafetz Chaim said, the guest is hungry. The angels could wait. The guest is hungry. We've got to feed a guest over here. What's more important, to keep the minhag or to feed a guest who's hungry, came into the house? So you always have to keep a proper perspective. But when you do have a minhag is very, very strong. Yosef is sending a message to Yaakov Avinu. I didn't even veer off of the tradition to the nth degree. I even said the animals, number one. Then the brothers go up to Yosef, to Yaakov. They'll pick it up on Pasuk Chovav. 3 lines from the top, page 256. By the way, I was on the train yesterday, on the way home, and I had this sefer with me. I have my briefcase, which is my portable desk. So I sat down. It works very well, by the way. I've got a portable desk, and I opened up my sefer like this. I started learning on the train. And there were 2 guys sitting opposite me. And one of them looks at me, and one of them looks at two older guys, and he says to me, in Hebrew, it says, is that Gemara? Is that Gemara? So, I don't like being disturbed, but if he's talking to me, I could be polite. So I said, yeah, maybe I'll educate, So I said, yeah, it's Gemara. He says, were they prophets? So I said, no, they're Tanaim and Amoraim, So he goes, and it's like explanations for the Torah? So I said, some of it is explanations, some of it is, commentary on the Torah. So he goes, well, if they could make commentary on the Torah, so I can make commentary on the Torah also. I can make my own commentary on the Torah because, there's 70 paths, Shivim Panim La Torah. At that point, I picked up the guy was being cynical. That's why I figured he was being cynical. So I just said to him, I said, you know darn well what the answer to that is. Then I looked down at my sefer and I ignored him. I wasn't going to waste time with a cynic. And then he got off. As he got off, he made a comment to me on the way off. He said, "So make sure you don't skip any words over there. Make sure you don't skip any words or letters." I didn't even look at it. I didn't say anything to him. What I did was I kept in mind what one of the great rabbis in Israel, Rabbi Moshe Shapiro Zatzal, he was once on a plane, and some intellectual cynic, he got on the plane, and he said to him, "So, Rabbi, what did you learn in yeshiva?" So he looked at him, he said, "I learned how to keep my mouth shut." And then he looked back at his Gemara and he ignored the guy for 12 hours on the plane. So if somebody has a respectful question, I'm happy to answer a respectful question. The guy's making fun of Torah. I was once on the bus also. I was standing up on the bus. I had like a mishnayos or something. So some guy looks at me, some guy says to me, "Oh, you're turning the bus into a shul, huh?" So I said to him, if it was a newspaper, it'd be okay, huh? The newspaper you wouldn't have any problem with because it's Torah. Lo, chas v'shalom. All of a sudden he got very apologetic. Chas v'shalom, no. So, people are, if somebody's an old Am Haaretz, so they can be very annoying people. Somebody, you get the older Talmidei Chacham, you get the Rav Moshe Feinstein's, Rav Chaim Kanievsky's, their wisdom increases. They become more refined. They become more understanding of Torah, of life, of everything else. That's the message he sends to Yaakov. Now, the brothers come to Egypt. Now you got a problem. You got to break the news to Yaakov Avinu that Yosef's alive. And this involves 2 problems. Number 1, if Yosef's alive, so what did you guys tell me 22 years ago? This is going to make them look bad. This is going to make them look bad, number 1. Number 2, there's the shock potential over here. How do you break the news? And they already have a precedent. Where was the precedent? Sorry, Menu, by the Akedah. That was the trick that the Satan used to get. He came in. He told her Yitzchak was shechted. Then he comes back dressed as Yitzchak. Hi, Mom. And she was just, the shock of joy killed her. The story with old man Murphy. wins $10 million in the lottery. So the family's worried, how are we going to break the news to him? He just won $10 million. That's a big shock. So they get a professional psychologist. So he comes in and he says, Murph, what would your reaction be if I told you you won $100? He goes, well, I'd take 50 and I'd give you 50. He says, what would your reaction be if I told you you won $10,000? Well, I'd take 5,000, give you 5,000. He says, what would your reaction be if I told you you won $10 million? He says, well, I'd take 5 million, give you 5 million. Psychologist had a heart attack and died on the spot. so there's a potential over here for shock. So what do? So the Medrash says, Vayalu miMitzrayim, third line, Vayavo eretz Canaan el Yaakov Aviyam, they come to the land of Canaan. Vayagidu lo lemor, they say, Od Yosef chai v'chihu Moshe b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. Yosef's alive and he's ruling in Egypt. Vayofag libo ki lohem min lohem. How does Rashi, what do you call it? How does the art school translate it? His heart rejected it, for he could not believe them. You know, the little boy who cried wolf. Yosef's alive. 22 years ago, he told me he was dead. Yaakov has trouble believing this. So, Vayidabru elav es kol divrei Yosef asher diber elahem. They tell him everything Yosef says. Vayaris ha'agolos asher shalach Yosef l'sei. So he sees the wagons that Yosef sent. Vatechi ruach Yaakovim, Yaakov's ruach spirit comes to life. I'm going to tell you an incredible Ramban. First of all, how did they break the news to him? The Medrash says they sent in Usher's daughter, Serach bas Usher. She played the harp. And she came in and started singing. And it's like when you break news to somebody, say, I got some good news. I got some very good news. I mean, like very, very, very good news. Like very good. Yeah. So you're already getting them ready for it. So she came in singing. She said, da 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 Yosef, da 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 Yosef. They generated it with AI, the music. Da 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 Yosef, and then finally she breaks the news to the Yosef's alive. That's how the Medrash says. But he sent the wagons. At first he didn't believe them. So listen to this; it's incredible. The wagons was a reminder. The word agolos is a reminder of something called egla arufa. Egla arufa is when they found a dead body, an unidentified dead body. So the Torah says they would take a calf and bring it down to some meadow, and they would break the calf's neck as an atonement. Why was there a Jewish person murdered and left out somewhere? They found him in the wilderness because he wasn't escorted. He hadn't been escorted by the people. To escort somebody protects him. When a guest leaves your house, so you know you're supposed to walk 4 amos?
Out the door.
Out the door, to escort him. Why does that protect him? Because if there are any bandits or highwaymen, if they see that he's been generally escorting me, escort him to the city limits. So if you escort somebody, any bandits or highwaymen, they see that there's going to be accountability. So that's actually going to protect him. Yosef is sending a message to Yaakov with the word agolos, which is wagons, but it's a similar word as egla rufa. The last Torah subject we studied when we were leaving was egla arufa. That section of Torah was the last Torah that you and I had learned before 22 years ago. Why is he sending him that message? He's sending Yaakov a sad message. You know what the sad message is? When you sent me off, you didn't escort me. Because you didn't escort me, that's why we went through this aggravation. Now that begs a question. Why would he send them a sad message? So commentaries say to counteract the happy message. That means the shock of the happy message has to be counterbalanced with a little sadness. So it's like if I tell you, by the way, you won $10 million, and your mother-in-law is going to be bringing it to you tonight. So that's going to somehow counterbalance the joy is going to be tapered with a certain sadness. And that's what the commentaries say. That's why he sent them a sad message, to make sure that Yaakov Avinu, the heart maintains the balance. That's what the Farshim say. Okay, we have to daven mincha.